like, subscribe, I like you. Hello everyone, Neil here, FaceliftInteriors. Today we've got this box. It's a very nice box. Now I've got a young son. There's toys everywhere in my house, so I'm going to turn it into a storage box. It was an ottoman before. Now we're going to turn it into a storage box. I'm just going to put a lifting hinge lift. So I'm going to deep button it all the way around. So I'm just going to prep it up, get it ready for upholstery, and keep on watching.
So what I'm doing now is bracing the box using a pin gun. These are the hinges I'm using, spring hinges. And I find it's easier to fit the hinges and the lid now before it's upholstered. Once it's upholstered, it's obviously a lot harder. The lid's going to be padded. So what I do is I build it upside down, like so. Put the marks in, screw the hinges in, make sure that they work. As you can see, works fine. Then I can take it apart. Here I'm gluing the old foam down. I did reuse the old foam, as you can see. I wouldn't recommend this, to be honest. I was just being a cheapskate. And then I'm drilling through where the old holes are. So I should explain that what I'm doing there is cutting off the old foam that's hanging over, because I have made it smaller to what it was originally. It was too wide. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring in between the diamonds, pushing it nice and tight. So when I cut the fabric, I know the size of the diamonds and the markings I need to make. So now I've cut the fabric, I'm making the marks, marking the top and the bottom of the diamond and then the middle. And making marks where the buttons are going to fall. What I do here is I'm marking where I'm joining. As you can see, cut away half an inch away from the marking to make for the turn under of the fabric. Here I'm gluing on Dacron over the foam. Gives you a nice soft feel. It's much easier to work with. And I'm using my fingers to punch the holes through in the Dacron. What I'm doing here, where I've made my markings, starting off on the join. If you want to see more in detail how to do joining, deep buttoning, comment in the comments below and I'll make sure I do a video on it if there's enough desire for it. So what I'm doing now is using the needle, follow through on my markings, looping the buttons on to the buttoning needle, pulling through and then stapling off underneath, dressing the pleats as I go. I'm using a hairdryer because it's vinyl, it's not as soft as I'd like it to be, it's a little bit firm, so the hairdryer does help to soften it up and make it easier to work with. Bear that in mind if you get a really thick vinyl and you're really struggling to get the pleats, hairdryer or a heat gun, hairdryer is a bit safer. Now onto the next side, so you can see there's two buttons that are close to each other on the ends. You do a pleat there and then back into diamonds again. I'll tidy that bit up later. So as we come up to the join, you have to do a join in the fabric. You can't make it fit perfectly, so you cut, as you can see, cut in around a diamond, then temporarily staple in, cut away the excess fabric, take the staple out and then fold the fabric under again. We call this Van Dyking a Van Dyke join in the UK. I'm not sure what they call it everywhere else in the world, but we call it a Van Dyke join. Like I said earlier, if you want to see a more in-depth detail of how to Van Dyke in deep buttoning, comment in the comments below, and if there's enough desire for it, I'll do one. Then I'm threading the buttons through, stapling off underneath. So what I'm doing now is tidying up the fabric, pulling tight at the top, and doing a nice pleat above the button. Make sure the pleats are straight at the top, tidying it up, straightening all the buttons off. Here I'm putting the pleats on the corners. What I'm doing now is putting the lining inside, so using cardboard strip back tack, staple along the top. Then fold the fabric down and staple along the bottom. Make sure it's nice and clean, straight, no gathering, no excess fabric. You have to staple into the corners, fold it over and staple down into the corners. There's nothing you can do about that unless you want to back tack it, and it's not worth the grief because no one sees it really anyway. What I'm doing now is using an interliner on the top, on the lid, so I am using an interliner to pad it a bit, because it is going to be used as a coffee table as well still, but I want a little bit of padding on it, so I'm just using an interliner, which is a fabric we use when the fabric's not been FR treated, so an interliner goes on instead of the fabric being treated. Now I'm upholstering the lid again, nice and tight, make sure the fabric's really tight, pulling the fabric over, rolling my fingers over the top and stapling off. Now I'm lining the lid just to keep it tidy and make it look nice. High quality, yes. What I'm doing now is I've glued the lining to the bottom wood that's going to drop into the box and be the base, and then staple off. Then, following mould marks that I did earlier, putting the hinge back on. Then marking on the lid where the screws have got to go into. I'll cut off the excess fabric and put the bottom on. Make sure it's on nice and square. On go the legs. Drop the bottom in. What's she doing? Isn't she pretty? Get rid of that. That is the inside. Storage box, coffee table. Thanks for watching.